Bound by Flame is an RPG created by Spiders and published by Focus Home Interactive for PC, Linux, PS4, PS3 and Xbox 360. It has some great ideas that are sadly undermined by poor execution or a lack of polish, but does this make it a bad game? Well, no, I guess?
I'm burning.
Story-wise, it's set in the fantasy world of Vertial, which has been consumed by the undead army of the Ice Lords. With their backs against the wall, a group of scholars called the Red Scribes enlist the help of a mercenary band called the Freeborn Blades to protect them as they make a last-ditch effort to stop the Ice Lord onslaught. Things don't go according to plan, and now the Blade's powder master Vulcan is possessed by an unknown demon, granting him powerful magic. Now what's left of the Resistance has to figure out how to best use Vulcan's abilities to stop the Ice Lords, while Vulcan has the demon whisper sweet promises of power in his ear.
Wise decision. Thou wilt not regret it. Now, thou must empty out all of thy thoughts. Allow me to move.
Now, this is actually a really good setup. The story is less stalwart hero journeying to save the world, and more along the lines of you're on a quest to save whatever's left to be salvaged. Because the Ice Lords, they've all but won. However, don't expect the story to grip you because the writing is pretty underwhelming. The dialogue is just crappy when it isn't laughably bad, and it doesn't help that the voice acting is really mixed. For every good voice actor, there's 2 average ones and 4 terrible ones.
Vulcan? Vulcan? You were far away. Is it the demon? He was talking to you, wasn't he?
But despite this, there are some memorable characters that are genuinely likeable, like the undead scholar Mathras, who is just wonderful.
No. You are, as you might put it, fucked. Or at least the mortals seem to be.
And there are some scenes that show a lot of promise in terms of storytelling, like when you go into the World Heart after defeating the first Ice Lord Black Frost. But these are undermined by really subpar presentation. As for the setting, Vertial is actually an interesting place, at least with what's in it. A lot of the flora and fauna is genuinely alien in its appearance and helps keep the game from looking like a Tolkien ripoff. How many games have giant prawn monsters as enemies? Just a shame it's not exactly pleasing to look at. If the footage wasn't a dead giveaway, this isn't exactly a graphical powerhouse of a game. That isn't to say it looks god-awful. Some of the scenery is fine, but as a whole the game looks like its development started in the early days of the 360, but for some reason just didn't come out until recently, with its blurred textures, objects clipping into the scenery. Now some pieces of the environment, or character models, just look like cel-shaded drawings that were slapped on top.
We have to find out what the fuck they get up to at night.
Combat doesn't fare much better either. Now, don't get me wrong, it does work, and they've even added a layer of strategy to the combat that gives it some real extra depth. But it is clumsy in how it handles. Information isn't accurately communicated to the player, so it's real easy to misjudge the range of an attack, or the area of effect of an enemy's ability, or to be unaware that you're accessing hotkeyed abilities or items. Plus, with how it's set up, it's actually possible for enemies to kill you as you try to get up after being knocked down, or to get stun-locked and die within seconds. The game also features a crafting system that lets you craft not only potions, traps, and upgrades, but also components for these things out of your gold? It's a little weird being able to craft stuff like tainted blood out of gold, but it works fine. And the game pauses when you craft, which can really help when you're in a tight spot and you need just an extra edge to scrape by. Plus, weapon and armor upgrades not only add benefits, but also add cosmetic changes to your equipment that actually appear in the game, which makes it all the more satisfying and less of a throwaway. Now, this game also uses a morality system. At certain points of the game, you have to make a choice on whether or not Vulcan gives into the temptation of the demon or resists. But here's the punchline. It doesn't play out like the Fable games, or similar games. The more demonic Vulcan becomes, the more pyromantic perks he gains, his magic becomes more powerful, and if you become demonic enough to grow horns, then you can't wear a helmet anymore. It's actually nice to see a moral choice system that has consequences that just go beyond narrative events and can actually have tangible benefits.
I would like to ask you a few questions.
Now, the last thing to really say about Bound by Flame is its soundtrack. It's slippin' sweet. No joke, whoever the composer at Spider is deserves an award for this game's soundtrack. The Corolthus camp theme is a joy to hear. The song that plays in the swamp sets the mood so perfectly. And the opening theme is easily on par with Chroma Squad's. When you take a step back and really look at it, Bound by Flame isn't a bad game, but it's not a particularly good one either. There's a lot to like here, from the few interesting characters to the soundtrack and even the combat where you know how to avoid its flaws, but it's too bogged down in a severe lack of polish to really rise above being average, and its writing doesn't particularly help either. I personally enjoyed my time with it, and I actually plan on playing it for a bit longer, but for everyone else, I can only recommend trying it out and seeing if you can put up with its shortcomings. And if you can, you'll find a decent experience that can be enjoyed, but if you can't, yeah, you pretty much wasted your time.
Is it true? Thou art returned.